Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gimp with a Limp, and we are here with the first of what will be, I have no idea how many turns of, or how many videos of Absolute Victory. We are starting our Scenario 10 campaign. You guys will notice on the map, it looks a little darker over here. I've adjusted the light a little farther to the right because this first turn in Scenario 10, the European theater does not get a turn. They do not get to activate anything basically on map A. And that's because we are starting at the very, very tail end of 1941. We're starting in December with the attack on Pearl Harbor. I have got a couple of fleet markers, and this is the one where it's the Japanese fleet, the American fleet, and I've gone ahead and moved them. So effectively, the Japanese fleet has come in here, or rather they're attacking Pearl Harbor, but they're starting their activation with that. That is the first thing that you have to do on this turn. So if you're wanting to see the base part of the game, you might want to pick up on the next video because Pearl Harbor is very in-depth, and that's going to take a good portion of this first video. I don't know if we'll get into many more generic impulses for this turn. But like I said, there's not a whole lot that actually has to be done in 1941. A lot of units maybe just be moving around. There's not a whole lot of activations that are going to happen. The big thing is basically fleshing out Pearl Harbor over there. And then the Americas are joining, or Americans, or they're not all of the Americas because these countries haven't necessarily joined just yet, are joining the fight. Now, we did do, or I did do, rather. I say we a lot. You guys are just going to have to get used to that because I grew up a twin. So it's just been since I was born. I use the royal we. I say it on the constant. My wife gets onto me all the time. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a double. Anyway, I went ahead and did all those save markers. Let me pan over real quick and I'll show you guys. On these player aids, there were a lot more of those save events, right? There was a buttload for the Axis and a handful for the NATO forces. And what that has to do with are, again, these Axis and UN event books. Now, just an FYI, as I'm filming this, guys, you guys are going to have to bear with me because we're going to be moving everywhere, all right, across the board. I've got this thing. It's big. I've set it up on 3 tables. Part of it's over there on a dresser. Main portion here on the table, and then over here is the side table that has all the player aids. But what I went through and did is I looked through all of those events because it was mainly stuff left over from 1939 and 1940 and some 1941. Basically, those first few turns of the game that we didn't play through since we're starting right there in the middle of the war when America gets in there, because that's when the war started, right? I mean, Europe ain't nothing. It's just when America gets involved, shit gets real. But we're picking up with that. So that leaves there are some save events, because with this game, to do a amphibious assault pulse, for an example, that's when you'll take a stack of ground units and invade an island. Big stuff that was happening here. You got to have an event marker to do that. So an event will give you the option. Like there's a save marker for the Axis to do Operation CeeLo, which was the ground invasion of Britain. And then there's just a buttload of ground invasion markers for the Axis forces, the Japanese forces here in the Pacific. So when I ran through these events, I took care of it. And it's hard to explain. It would have taken so long on video that I didn't want to do that because it would have been like an hour-long, rather boring video of me reading it, figuring out what's going to go on with it, putting the units on the board. Because with some of these events, what you'll have happen is a minor nation will activate, or it will give you the ability to conduct an amphibious assault landing with X amount of troops, or it'll have some variant kick in. Stuff like that is the big thing with these. By going ahead and handling all those save markers, we've taken care of the big stuff. So now the only ones left over here on this table, which again is dark because I don't have the lights pointed at it, are things that I have to worry about for upcoming turns. Like harsh Russian winter can come into play later on. I'll have to look at this one again. We're playing orange. Oh, MacArthur, and coming back to the Philippines. The big thing over here, these are like Japanese amphibious assaults. So those are saved amphibious assaults that I can use later on, or effectively now when you have ground units conduct their pulse. You got to have some type of event that allows you to actually invade an enemy hex. Now, if I understand the rules correctly, though, so say we got like our units here in the Philippines, right? The American units. The Japanese units can't amphibiously assault there if they don't have like the proper events or save markers to do it, but they could land at maybe another port, right? Do a transit by sea, land, and that would be their impulse. And then on following turn, they conduct their attack. So a slower way of conducting their attack rather than just coming in by sea and doing that. But we're going to have a lot of those type pulses coming up. All right. And something else to show you guys real quick is the way I've got these naval units set up over here with the Americas. They're not all necessarily on those hexes. They're on whatever one of these has the naval port on it. They're all stacked together. But I've got them split up into the different task forces I want them to be a part of. So they'll go out on their own, but they'll all be starting from whichever one of these two here has the anchorage, the port at it, and they'll sail out from there. But that way they can kind of sail out, create a little blockade over here, maybe stop some of this Japanese expansion. Okay, I've adjusted the light a little bit. I think that's better. It's just a touch dimmer, but way less shadow for distraction. So I think this is going to work for us. Now, like I was saying, we are picking up with Pearl Harbor, and that has its own special rules on how it is going to be played out, okay? So what I've done is I've set all the fleets over here. This is the Japanese strike force that is a part of it. We are going to set them out here in the access ready boxes, and the American forces are going to be put in the UN ready boxes. Now, this isn't going to be a standard naval fight. It has its own special rules and combat table. So don't judge naval combat off of this. If this works out historically, the Americans won't even get to really shoot. It's basically how many of their ships survive and if any of their aircraft carriers are caught. A standard naval combat will work similar, but a little different to how this Pearl Harbor raid is going to be conducted. All right, so I got my pile of dice here ready to go for it. And the first thing that we have to do is see how many American aircraft carriers are actually going to be a part of this raid. To do that, we are going to roll a D6. I'm just going to throw my little thing right here and let's roll our D6. 1. That should be 1. All right. If the die roll in the room is higher than the number of U.S. aircraft carrier units, all of them go there. The number rolled is the number of aircraft carriers present at Pearl Harbor. He selects at random which ones go back into the Pearl Harbor stack. Okay. So that tells us that only one single aircraft carrier is actually going to be a part of this raid. So the majority of the aircraft carriers did miss it. So let's grab this out here. These are aircraft carriers we have there: the Yorktown, the Hornet, the Enterprise, and the Wasp. Okay, so it really doesn't matter which one we grab, but personally, I am not going to let the Enterprise go down, so I'm pulling that one out of the random pile. Deal with it, because I love the Enterprise. It's my favorite. So, all right, Gimpy's looking away, and he's swirling. And hold on, I knocked over the pile. Let me pull these back. All right, now Gimpy's looking away, and let's see. Let's take this one. That one is the Yorktown. Okay, so these two will go over with the Enterprise, and they actually go on the turn box, the next turn box. It says as potential reinforcements, okay? It says face down, but it doesn't matter. They arrive as U.S. reinforcements at the end of the turn. Now we have to do a D10 roll. So let's go ahead and put our units on our combat table real quick so we know who's going to be a part of it. We know our single aircraft carrier will be a part. That's not too bad, all things considered, of who they could have caught, because they could have caught more. One aircraft carrier is not a bad loss. Now, this is what I was telling you guys earlier about in the overview. This is the front. This is how you're going to set up your units when it comes to combat. Now, again, infantry are different. Infantry take up 2 boxes. Everything else takes up 1 boxes. 1 box, 1 boxes, just a single box. Now, your aircraft will go in these lower and upper boxes. UN aircraft go up top to attack the bad guys. Bad guy aircraft go down here to attack good guys. That's the way that's going to work out. And we will place theirs out in the access ready box. Now, they have an admiral that had to be a part of this raid. If admirals are part of the game, you don't have to have admirals in it, but I wanted to have admirals in it because they're cool like that. And I'm probably just going to do these guys straight across. Actually, I'm going to move them 1 down instead, because aircraft carriers don't have to wait. No, can they be attacked? I think they can be attacked in this. Yes. Aircraft carriers can be attacked. Okay, so in standard combat, you have the option of like not attacking with your guns, because if you look at the aircraft, all right, like the Yorktown here, it's got X 410. X is its gunnery rating. So this one doesn't have a gunnery rating. So if it did, let's say that was 0 or above, like this one here, that one could engage its guns and its aircraft. That middle number is its aircraft rating, which is effectively an aircraft carrier's guns. It's attack. So if you choose not to attack with an aircraft carrier's guns, then you can basically shield them behind your battleships. That way they can't be attacked unless certain conditions are met. However, this, again, Japanese raid, Pearl Harbor, a little bit different. Screwballs are stuck, so he actually can be attacked. So we got them all lined up here. We're good to go. Okay, so now we have to roll on our table here. It's a D10 roll, and this is going to determine what happens in our historical scenario. It can either be better for the Japanese, historical, or better for the Americans, up to and including the Americans catch the Japanese and strike them instead of getting struck by the Japanese. So let's roll and see what we get. 6, which is historic. So 3 to 7 is the raid, is the historical result, proceeds with no modifiers. Would have been nice to get something like 10. The U.S. forces shadow the approaching Japanese task force and ambush them at sea as soon as they reach U.S. territorial waters. The UN player may move a stack of U.S. ships from Pearl Harbor to intercept the striking force. On a roll on a D6 of 1 to 5, they get 1 free round of combat. And then on a 6, they would get 2. Now, this raid is effectively the Japanese getting 2, or not 2, but 1 up to more raids against the Americans. So, like it says here, this is an exception to the normal naval combat rules. Ignore the airstrike factor and armor ratings. We're just rolling on this. So normally, when a aircraft carrier or battleship would attack, you would roll a D10 and a D6. You would add those numbers together plus their strike rating. So either their aircraft or the gunnery rating. And if it meet or beat the armor rating, the farthest right number on the counter, then you caused a hit. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. A real simple system, but I like it. 2 dice, you know, different dice. This is different. This is rolling 2d6 and just looking to see what happens. Now, when we do all of this, it has a whole list of options of possibilities down here. What I'm going to do as a time saver is we're going to do 1 round of combat and cut it at that point. They do whatever damage they do, and then they're just going to continue on with their impulse. So basically, the Japanese are getting to roll 2d6 on this chart against all the ships over there in the front that I just lined up. They do get a bonus The U.S., if there are any U.S. carrier CV units there, they get to add +3 to the die roll. That's why it's bad for them being there. And I was talking about them being able to be attacked or avoided. And this one, they can't be attacked, or they can be attacked. They can't avoid it. So let's pan over to the front and see what happens. Okay, so we're over here at the front. And like I was saying, again, this is different. This is not normal combat, not normal naval combat. Goes a lot differently than it normally does. Actually, let me see. Can I set this little tripod up to make this easier for myself? Why, yes, I can. Look at that. There we go. This thing tripods very well. Okay, let me grab my little dice here. Okay, so we're set up. And just for ease of play, I'm just going to do it straight across. Boom, 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 boom. Right on down the line. Now, when you do the normal naval combat and have them going back and forth, you can't like dogpile a single unit. Okay, so each unit can only be shot at once until every unit has been shot at once, and then you can start doubling up on units. So you can't apply, okay, so how many ships do they have? They have 7. You can't apply 3 to one ship, 2 to another, and then 2 to another when there's this whole line of potential targets, okay? So you've got to go 1 across the board, and then, of course, you got to declare which ones of your CVs are attacking. You guys will see all this later on in the normal naval battles. Again, this is different. Now, one of the things that's actually kind of interesting in this game is that they actually suggest not pursuing naval combat to the utmost, because they were saying how in playtest they had very often where the Pacific was almost devoid of ships because players in the game were very bloodthirsty and they would just keep going at combat. They would never retreat. They would blow each other out of the water until there were almost no ships left in the sea. And it's like, look, after you take a head or two, pull back, live to fight another day. Don't go down guns swinging, you know? All right. Anyway, let me grab my chart and we will just do this straight down. Boom, 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 boom. And these last 2 just won't get hit. Definitely have to give them the shot on the CV since they get a bonus. So this first one, it's got a combat factor of 3. So he's getting 3 plus 3 for this being an aircraft carrier plus whatever he rolls on a 2d6. Again, I know it's a little confusing. Normal naval combat would be a d6 and a d10. This is just a 2d6 roll on this little chart right here. So let's roll and see what he, hold up. Yep, just roll. Ah! Actually, I just caught myself before I do something stupid. He's getting the +3 to his roll flat out, but he is not getting his gunnery rating. None of them are. This is just rolling on the chart. All right, I read that again just to make sure. Just rolling on the strike table, not adding anything else to it except for potential modifiers. That's what we were determining when we were determining whether it was historical or some type of advantage. So none of these numbers matter. Not even the armor rating matters. It's all the chart on this first one. So first roll is 10. This is bad. The aircraft carrier is sunk. That comes out to a 13. So bam, he's sunk. Second one is, oh, and that is the Yorktown too. I don't want to lose an aircraft carrier. Second battleship, he gets 9. That is a hit. Yep, target is hit. All right. Next one is going to be 2. No damage. So, and if they roll exactly a 4, they actually, oh, sorry, trying to get the chart into it. If they roll exactly a 4, the Japanese actually get a penalty. So, and let me do this so I don't forget which one I'm on, because I'm on the 3rd one. Hold on. One of my little yellow beads just to remember where I am. We're rolling for the one ahead of the yellow bead, so I don't forget. All right, come on. More low rolls. That's what I need. 7. 7 should be a single. Yes, single hit. We'll bring him down over here. And the thing is, a lot of these battleships will be able to come back into the game later. They are going to have to be repaired. All right, so let's roll. And roll 4. Oh, exactly 4. Perfect. That is bad for the Japanese. So we ding, ding, we're to there. And now I'm going to drop something on the other chart. I'll be right back. Had to do with their elite air. Doesn't affect what we're doing here, but we will get into that later on. So let's roll for the next one. Come on, give me another 4. 4, 4, 4. Good, good, good. Nope, that's 8. That's another hit. So you come down, put you there. We got one more to do. Come on, no whammy, no whammy, no whammy, no whammy. 6, I do believe that's a hit. Yep, that is a hit. Well, they did pretty good. They didn't hit 2, and they destroyed my aircraft carrier. So that's actually kind of bad. They damaged 4 battleships and destroyed an aircraft. Oh no, not an aircraft carrier. I want to get that aircraft carrier back because production comes into this game and it takes so long to build a ship back when it comes to this. Let me pan back up so you guys can see. All these green counters up here, the majority of them, these are ships waiting to be built. And you guys can see this goes into year 1946. Takes a damn minute to get a ship back into the game. We're here, okay? We're way up here. We're not going to get down here. This is going to take a minute. I would be surprised if we got over into like here, to be honest with you. Actually, let's see. I am on the wrong space. I should be on this space, rather. Excuse me. Boop. Yes, we are here, and we go there. Why are those aircraft carrier, or why are those ships there? I'm going to have to look. I might have placed them on the wrong one. They might go there, but we'll check that here in a minute. Yeah, I've got to adjust my game turn track because I was off by 1. But this raid actually went pretty well for him. Where's the Arizona? Oh, look, the Arizona's right there. Ah, we kept it. Historically, that little SOB went down, as you guys know. I didn't even notice it was one of the 2 at the end. But our other real powerful battleship, that one's a 6. That's pretty good. So not too bad. Lost a 6, 2 5s, and a 4, and another 4 aircraft carrier. Now we've got to do for their repair status, which is also different from normal. Okay, so back over here to this chart, we've got to do some damage checks for the units. And the thing is, this one added the ability to be bottomed, which is not normal when it comes to naval combat. Being hit is normal, so this next step is normal. We're generally going to do this when it comes to naval combat. So if a target is hit, you roll a d6, and on a 1 to 5, the unit is placed in that number repair box of the naval build pool. I'll show you guys that here in just a sec. And on a 6, the unit's going to be sunk. So something bad happens when they're trying to repair it, and it goes down. This one added the ability to be bottomed, where they could potentially be raised back up like they did in real life. But you see, it can take, depending on your roll, a much longer time to bring it back. Upwards of 14 turns, which is a long time in this game. Tell you what, let me do those rolls real quick off camera to save some time, and then I'll pan over to that player 8 and show you guys the results. Oh no, so this didn't go perfect. This went, it went okay, but I put my destroyed aircraft carrier right here. If you guys notice, there's another ship joining it. I rolled a 6. So one of them went down. They took out about half of the Pearl Harbor fleet. There were 12 ships there. 2 ships were destroyed and another 3 damaged. So yeah, 5 out of the 12 were taken out of commission. Am I doing that right? Yeah, 4. Yeah, math's not my strong suit. What am I doing? Anyway, these guys are going to continue their impulse here in just a sec. We'll deal with the rest here in just a second. Let me show you the chart. This has to do with what we were talking about rolling those D6s. You see our 3 green counters here for our battleships that were damaged. When you roll that D6, let me put them in the return box rather than the build box. Since they're not new, they're damaged, but they go here, and this shows how many turns to repair them back into it. So not horribly bad as far as the damage is concerned. In this game, a turn is considered 2 months. So basically that's 2 months of repairs, 4 months of repairs, 6 months of repairs. Okay, so we're back over here to our chart. I put the remaining units from the U.S. Pacific Fleet, which is not much now, and the Japanese task force back into their boxes. Again, this is just used to help declutter the board. So you've only got a single counter representing this whole stack of units. Okay, so here's where we were. Our task force was attacked, and effectively, when it comes to movement with a naval task force, they have 15 hexes of movement up to a friendly port. So they can't just go forever. They have to basically bounce from like friendly port to friendly port so they don't run out of supplies and all other good stuff. So if they started there, go 1, 2, let's go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We'll put them maybe right about here. I don't know. Let's see. Well, they're close to a port. Where's another port? No, there's another port over here. These are all Japanese controlled. There's another one up there. They can dip over. What I kind of want to do is have some Japanese fleets along this to kind of barricade it off so the American forces can't just come in unopposed. Now, the way it works when it comes to intercepting enemy forces is for a battleship to intercept an enemy ship. The enemy ship actually has to pass through its hex. That's easy to avoid. However, the carriers, they have reconnaissance aircraft that patrol up to a couple hexes out around them. So if you have a few aircraft carriers, now obviously with battleship support, dotted around, you can cover the whole area so you can intercept task forces that are coming through. Let's see, where do we want to dock him? There's another port over there. See, 12, 13, 14, 15. I could go up to the port. I don't have to go up to the port since he did start out there in the middle. Because you can, again, I'm hoping I 100% read this right. I know I'm going to miss a rule here or there just because there is a lot going on in this game. But as far as I understand it, you can just leave naval units hanging about. Sometimes you can't in some of these large scale games. They do have to like stop at a port and then they'll only venture out into sea zones on their impulse. And then they have to end at another port. This one, I do believe you are allowed to leave them out at sea. So I'm going to actually park him more out here because he's definitely within a bunch of friendly ports. There's a few over here within definitely 15 hexes. That way you can kind of guard these areas over here as the Americans have to push back out in this direction to try to gain control. Also, we will take our first yellow little bead here and throw it on that counter. Unfortunately, when it comes to the Japanese units, the yellow bead does not stand out as well, but it does stand out very well against all the other units. So yeah, it's a trade-off, but it works. Now, normally when you're playing this game, you would flip them as such to signify that they're done with their impulse. Again, I don't like that. It doesn't work. It was a bad design decision, and I think they know that, and it's why they have gone in that direction again. But like I said, this game tries so many different things, and it's such a unique experience. I'm willing to overlook that and come up with my own solution to take care of it. So boom, put the bead on it, and we call it a day. Okay, so finally we have our first impulse of the game done. I told you guys this first video is pretty much going to be all Pearl Harbor because there's so much going on with it. The rest of the video should take much less time. We're not going to spend a video on each impulse because normal impulses would be something like, okay, this unit's going to move up to here and we'll throw a bead on it and it's done. It'll be something like that or a smaller, much more manageable combat situation. Generally speaking, I'm going to try to avoid having huge naval engagements because I do want to try to keep the navies afloat on both sides, at least for a few turns. I don't want to stack a huge amount. Now, there is a stacking limit when it comes to navies. You can only have 6 battleships and 6 aircraft carriers in a single hex. Yes, I know Pearl Harbor had more than that. They're the exception. But the American player does have to rectify that as soon as possible, which they did by allowing their battleships to get sunk. But I don't want to have them all taken out early in the game. I want to have smaller engagements if possible, things like that. And you guys will see later on that that is going to happen as I start sending out fleets from here and fleets from here. When they engage, it's not even a guarantee that they'll actually intercept each other. There's a process rolls back and forth to see if you do intercept your opponent, if you surprise them, if they surprise you, what happens as a result of that. And then sometimes people will get free turns, where we were doing it like over there with the front, where one side got to attack and the other side didn't. You can have even up to 2 free turns where you're just tearing them apart. Real cool stuff happens in the naval engagement, but you guys see what I was talking about with this game, about it being very, 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 very fiddly. Okay. That is a drawback for the game. I'll wholeheartedly admit it. But it's one of those things that, like I said, it's a drawback that's doing something to bring something unique to the game with that whole front aspect, the player aid over here, where you're having to designate what units, which ones are kept in the reserve, how many you're going to commit. Are you going to have air superiority? Are you even going to bring aircraft into it? A real unique way to look at the game. So, yeah, it's fiddly, but it's, and my phone beep, my apologies, but it's fiddly to bring something new. I do like it when a designer will step outside the box and try something different. Now, I do want to be honest with you guys, though. I wholeheartedly admit I've got rose-colored glasses when it comes to this game, because it was the first Hex Encounter war game I ever played, I ever filmed for the channel, I ever did anything with. So for me, this is like the girl you lose your virginity to. You know, you've got the fond memories of her, even though you might look back at the pictures and be like, bleh. But for you, you know, she was perfect. She was gorgeous. So I am going to be a little biased in that. So take that, you know, and stick it in the back of your mind that the Gimpy's a little biased in this one's favor just because I got the rose-colored glasses on. I want to think fondly of this because it reminds me of those fond days when I was like, what the hell's a CRT? What's an enemy zone of control? What the hell does this mean? You know, what the hell's a counter? I didn't know any of that shit then. You know, I wasn't an expert. I wasn't the critical thinker that I am now, bringing this excellent war game coverage to you guys. Anyway, I'll stop patting myself on the back. We'll get into it. Like I said, next turn or next video should go pretty quickly. We're not going to have a whole lot going on. It's just going to be the maneuver of a few forces. I do believe the KMT forces here, which are the like free Chinese, are still in the game. Yeah, they're still in the game. They had a chance to have a separate piece with the Japanese. That did not go through. They did have some units that flipped due to that. So there'll probably be a little bit of combat over here. You'll find that when it comes to ground combat, there's not a whole lot of that going on this side of the map. It's a few units. Oh, and there's a bunch of garrisons that got put out thanks to some events. But there's not that many ground units moving around here. The Americans, have like 3 counters, I think, 2 counters. They got, oh, this was an event that put some Philippine units, I think, on the board that can help the Americans, which is, hey, that's great. But you have less of those. The big ground combat, that's going to be going on in the European theater. But the Americans do have to try to concern themselves with both theaters because they're going to build themselves up over the course of the turns, starting with, you know, bringing more units in. And they're going to have to divide those units. Are they sending them to the Pacific or are they sending them to help out? Because we do have a large contingent of German forces here, and they have the Operation CeeLo event, which can allow them to invade mainland Britain. And while they do have a substantial amount of forces, that is something that they have to consider on whether they are going to hold. What are they going to do? I might have to bring some naval forces down. Yeah. First thing Great Britain's got to do is bring some naval forces down here just to guard, just to keep the Germans from coming straight across. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that though. We'll get into that when we hit 1942. Sorry, I'm looking forward to getting started over there. All right, but I'll stop rambling. Please feel free if you've got any questions, concerns, comments, anything that you want to know about the game. Feel free to put it down below. I will do my best to answer your questions to the best of my ability. Anyway, you guys take care. I'll see you in the next one.